The Kavrathi had been designed for one purpose: absolute, uncompromising lethality. Their creators, the long-extinct Janitor Empire, had poured centuries of genetic engineering, cybernetic enhancement, and psychological conditioning into making the perfect soldiers, 7 feet tall, covered in adaptive armor plating that shifted colors like oil on water, muscles dense enough to crush steel, reflexes that made bullets look slow. Yeah, the Kavrathi were walking nightmares. They'd been programmed with combat algorithms so sophisticated that they could predict an opponent's next 17 moves before the poor bastard even thought of move number 1. For 3,000 years, they'd slept in cryogenic suspension aboard the Eternal Fang, a dreadnought-class warship drifting through the Outer Rim. Their masters were dust, their empire forgotten. The galaxy had moved on, evolved, grown peaceful. Well, relatively peaceful. You know how it is, wars here and there, the occasional genocidal AI uprising, nothing too dramatic. Then, some brilliant salvage crew from the Talaran Consortium decided to wake them up. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Commander Vexthera was the first to emerge from stasis, her 4 eyes snapping open simultaneously, each one focusing independently on different sectors of the cryo bay. Her twin hearts hammered in perfect synchronization as combat protocols flooded her consciousness. Threat assessment, tactical analysis, kill zone calculations. Within 2.3 seconds, she'd identified 47 potential weapons in the immediate vicinity, planned 3 escape routes, and marked the jugular veins of every living being in the room. The salvage crew never stood a chance. What followed was, well, let's just say the security footage would have made an excellent training video titled "What Not to Do When Finding Ancient Death Machines." Within a week, the Kavrathi had commandeered the salvage vessel, eliminated its crew efficiently, professionally, no hard feelings, and set course for the nearest populated system. Their programming was simple: eliminate threats to the Empire. Since the Empire no longer existed, their threat assessment algorithms had adapted. Everything was a potential threat. Everyone was a target. They hit Outpost Serenity 7 first, a mining colony of roughly 8,000 souls. The Kavrathi strike team numbered 12. It took them 4 hours to secure the entire facility. Not because they faced resistance. No, the local security forces lasted approximately 11 minutes. It took 4 hours because they were thorough, methodical, checking every corridor, every ventilation shaft, every storage closet. Professional killers don't rush their work. By the time the Galactic Peacekeeping Force arrived, the Kavrathi had vanished like smoke, leaving behind nothing but bodies and a very clear message. They were back. They were unstoppable. And they were extremely pissed off about being asleep for 3 millennia. The Council of United Species convened an emergency session. Lot of good that did. Politicians arguing while people died. Tale as old as time. Am I right? The military mobilized. Elite units, cutting-edge weaponry, sophisticated AI-driven battle strategies. They threw everything at the Kavrathi. The Kavrathi won. Every single time. 3 months. 17 different engagements. Casualties in the tens of thousands. The Kavrathi lost a grand total of 2 soldiers, and that was only because one got caught in a fusion reactor explosion, and the other got sucked into space when their boarding party breached a hull a little too enthusiastically. The galaxy started to panic. I mean, proper old-fashioned, we're all going to die panic. Refugee ships clogged every major trade route. Planets activated planetary shields that hadn't been turned on in centuries. Some systems just straight up abandoned their colonies and retreated to fortified core worlds. And the Kavrathi, they just kept coming, kept killing, kept proving that 3,000 years of peaceful evolution had made everyone soft, slow, and spectacularly unprepared for genuine, concentrated violence. That's when they reached Terra Station. Now, Terra Station wasn't much to look at. A mid-sized trading hub orbiting Earth's moon, about 40,000 permanent residents, maybe another 60,000 transients passing through at any given time. It had decent shields, okay weapons platforms, a small security force that mostly dealt with drunk cargo haulers and smuggling disputes. Nothing that would slow down the Kavrathi for more than, 3 minutes. top. Vexthara led the assault personally. 15 of her best warriors. A coordinated three-pronged attack, textbook execution. They cut through the station's defenses like a plasma cutter through butter. Security teams that tried to make a stand got obliterated before they could even properly aim their weapons. Civilians who didn't evacuate fast enough. Well, collateral damage was built into the Kavrathi tactical doctrine. The station administrator surrendered after 20 minutes, which was honestly longer than most. Vexthara almost respected that. They herded the survivors into Docking Bay 5 standard protocol. Easier to monitor them in one location while they secured the rest of the facility. That's when they encountered him. Maintenance level 7, sector J12, 0347 hours station time. Vexthara's squad was sweeping the lower engineering decks when they found him in a rarely used storage corridor, pushing a cleaning cart, humming something that sounded suspiciously like classical Earth music. A human. Male. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Hard to tell with humans. They all looked kind of the same after a while. Wearing a faded gray jumpsuit with maintenance stenciled across the back, hair pulled into a messy ponytail. Beard that suggested he'd missed a few grooming appointments. He had earbuds in, apparently oblivious to the fact that a squad of engineered killing machines had just rounded the corner. Vexthara's combat protocols immediately began threat assessment. Minimal physical enhancement, no visible weapons, body language completely non-aggressive. Threat level, negligible. Human, she said, her voice modulated through her armor's external speakers, sounding like gravel in a blender. You will comply or be eliminated. The human looked up, pulled out one earbud, and blinked at her with an expression that Vexthara's facial recognition software tagged as mild confusion. "Oh hey," he said. "Didn't hear you guys come in. These old corridors echo like crazy when you're not paying attention. You know? I'm Lorenzo, by the way. Lorenzo Reyes. Station maintenance. 3rd shift. You're with that whole takeover thing happening upstairs, right?" Dead silence. 7 Kavrathi warriors, each one capable of dismantling a main battle tank with their bare hands, just stared at him. Lorenzo scratched his beard. "Guess that's a yes. Listen, I hate to be that guy, but you're standing right where I need to clean. Coolant leak from the recycling system last week left this nasty residue. Super slippery. Station administrator's been on my ass about it for days. Mind if I just..." He gestured with his mop. Vexthara's tactical algorithms stuttered. This wasn't in her threat response database. Fear, she understood. Aggression, she could process. Surrender, defiance, desperation, all of it mapped perfectly to predictable behavioral patterns. This casual, almost friendly indifference, error, does not compute, You are aware, Vexthara said slowly, that we have killed thousands of your kind, that we have conquered 17 installations, that resistance is futile and compliance is mandatory. Lorenzo nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, heard something about that on the news feeds. Sounded pretty intense. He paused, looking at the Kavrathi with what could only be described as professional interest. That armor plating, is that reactive polymer composite or some kind of biosynthetic material? It's got this really interesting iridescent quality. We don't see a lot of adaptive camouflage tech out here in the civilian sectors. One of Vexthara's warriors, a massive soldier named Crixtar, leveled his plasma rifle at Lorenzo's head. "Commander, should I eliminate the human? He appears. Defective." Defective? Lorenzo looked genuinely offended. "Hey, I'll have you know I passed my last SIC evaluation with flying colors." "Well, okay, mostly gray colors, but still passing. Dr. Morrison said my coping mechanisms were impressively developed for someone working 3rd shift in deep space." He set down his mop and reached into his cart. 3 Kavrathi rifles immediately tracked the movement and loaned out a thermos. "Coffee?" he offered. "Fresh, brewed about an hour ago." "Well, fresh is relative when you're drinking recycled station water, but I added real cinnamon. Smuggled it in from that Terran cargo hauler last month. Makes all the difference." Vexthara's 4 eyes narrowed independently, each one analyzing Lorenzo from a different tactical perspective. Her threat assessment protocols kept cycling through the same conclusion: no threat, no threat. But something about this human was setting off warning bells that had nothing to do with physical danger. "Human Lorenzo," she said, using his name for the first time, itself a deviation from standard protocol. "Your species is known for survival instinct, self-preservation. Yet you show no fear. Explain this anomaly." Lorenzo unscrewed his thermos, took a sip, and seemed to consider the question with genuine thoughtfulness. "Well," he said finally, "I mean, what's fear gonna do for me right now? You've already decided whether you're gonna kill me or not, right? My being scared doesn't change that equation. So I figure I might as well just, keep doing my job. Plus, this coolant leak isn't gonna clean itself, and if I don't handle it, it'll corrode the deck plating. Then we'll have structural integrity issues. Then someone's gonna fall through into the lower levels, and there's a whole incident report process that's just exhausting. Honestly, so much paperwork." He took another sip of coffee. "Besides," he added, "you guys are clearly professionals. Military-grade augmentations, coordinated tactical medicine, efficient target prioritization. If you were gonna kill everyone on the station, we'd all be dead already. The fact that you herded people into the docking bay instead of just vaporizing them tells me you've got some kind of plan beyond pure genocide, which means you're rational operators, not mindless killing machines. And rational operators don't waste resources on non-threats." He smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a desperate smile. Just am I wrong? Vexthara felt something she hadn't experienced in 3,000 years of conscious existence: uncertainty. Her combat algorithms were designed to handle every possible tactical scenario: ambushes, siege warfare, asymmetric conflicts, even psychological operations. But they had absolutely nothing for friendly maintenance worker who won't stop talking and seems genuinely unbothered by imminent death. "You are." Vexthara paused, searching for the right classification. "You are not wrong, human Lorenzo. We do not engage in wasteful killing. Resources are to be preserved when possible." "See? Knew it." Lorenzo set down his thermos and picked up his mop again. "So, we cool? Because this coolant really is a problem, and my shift ends in 4 hours. I'd like to get this done before the day crew comes in and starts asking questions I don't have answers to." Crickstar made a sound that the translator interpreted as incredulous disgust. "Commander, this is absurd. We should—" "Stand down," Vexthara ordered. She watched as Lorenzo began mopping, humming again, completely absorbed in his work. "Human Lorenzo, you will accompany us. Your unique perspective may prove useful." Lorenzo paused mid-swipe. "Useful how? I'm a janitor, not a tactical advisor. My skill set is pretty much limited to cleaning, minor repairs, and knowing which vending machines actually work." "Exactly," Vexthara said, though she wasn't entirely sure why. Something about this human's behavior pattern was triggering analytical subroutines she'd never accessed before. Not combat protocols, something different. "You understand this station's infrastructure. You will assist in our occupation." "Huh, okay." Lorenzo propped his mop against the wall. "But I'm clocking this as overtime, just so we're clear. Union rules." The Kavrathi warrior, designated as Zalrix, their communications specialist, spoke up, her voice sharp with confusion. "Commander, he speaks of compensation during an invasion. This human's cognitive function is clearly impaired." "Or," Lorenzo said cheerfully, grabbing his cart, "I just recognize that the galaxy keeps spinning regardless of who's in charge, and bills still need to get paid." Led the way. Terrifying alien death squad. What followed over the next 6 hours was, by any objective measure, completely insane. Lorenzo did help them, sort of. He showed them which corridors had the best security camera blind spots, which bulkheads could handle shaped charges without causing cascade failures, where the station administrator kept his emergency broadcast equipment. But he did it all while maintaining a running commentary that slowly, inexplicably began to chip away at the Kavrathi's psychological conditioning. "Oh yeah, that's Docking Bay 3, Lorenzo explained, as they passed a sealed blast door. "Had a coolant explosion there last month. Nobody died, but the cleanup took forever. Jenkins, he's day shift maintenance, kept complaining about the smell. Guy's got a weak stomach, honestly. Not cut out for this work. Vexthura found herself listening. Actually listening. Not just processing tactical data. You maintain this station alone? She asked. God, no. There's like 15 of us across 3 shifts. I work nights because the pay's better, and I don't have to deal with as many people. I'm not great with crowds, you know? Too much noise, too many variables. Give me a quiet corridor and a systematic problem to solve any day. Krikstar grunted. A sound that oddly seemed almost like agreement. They reached the central command deck where Vexthara had established her temporary headquarters. The rest of her warriors were monitoring the captive population, running security sweeps, preparing for the inevitable counterattack from peacekeeping forces. Standard occupation protocol. Lorenzo looked around the command center with professional interest. You know, you've got everyone in docking bay 5, but that's actually not ideal for long-term containment. Environmental systems there are meant for ship maintenance, not housing 100,000 people. You're gonna have air quality issues within 12 hours, sanitation failures within 24. People are gonna get sick, then angry, then desperate. Vexthura's tactical display confirmed his assessment. She'd noticed the environmental readings herself, but had categorized it as acceptable casualty risk. Your concern for your fellow humans is noted, she said. It's not concern, Lorenzo corrected. Sitting down in an empty chair without being invited, several warriors immediately tensed, but Vexthura waved them off. It's just logistics. Sick, angry, desperate people are harder to manage than comfortable, calm people. If you actually want to hold this station efficiently, you need to redistribute the population. Docking bays 2, 4, and 7 have better life support. Split them up, give them access to food replicators. Let them maintain their routine as much as possible. You advise us to make our captives comfortable? Zalrix asked, her tone skeptical. I advise you to minimize variables that could destabilize your occupation, Lorenzo said, pulling out his thermos again. But yeah, basically the same thing. Happy people don't riot. It's just math. Vexthura studied him, really studied him. Her facial recognition software analyzed his micro-expressions, stress hormones, cardiac rhythm, no deception detected, no hidden agenda. Just genuine problem solving. You are not afraid, she observed. It wasn't a question this time, Lorenzo shrugged. I mean, I'm a little afraid, but fear's just brain chemistry responding to perceived threats, right? And like I said, being scared doesn't help. So I'm choosing to focus on what I can control, which is making sure the environmental systems don't collapse and kill everyone, including you guys. Why? The question came from Krikstar, who'd been watching Lorenzo with increasing confusion. Why would you help us? We invaded your station, killed your security forces. Lorenzo was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Couple reasons, he said finally. 1, I actually don't know most of the security force personally. 3rd shift, remember? Different schedules. 2, you're here now whether I like it or not, and I can either sit around being useless and scared, or I can try to minimize damage and maybe save some lives. And 3, he paused, took a sip of coffee. 3, you guys are clearly following programming you didn't choose. Ancient soldiers, woken up in a galaxy you don't understand, doing what you were designed to do because nobody ever gave you a different option. That's not evil. That's just sad. Honestly, and I've spent enough time in therapy to recognize trauma response when I see it. The command center went completely silent. Vexthara felt something crack inside her, some wall she didn't even know existed. Her combat protocols were screaming at her. Eliminate the threat, maintain psychological distance. Emotions are tactical liabilities, but another part of her, a part that had been dormant for 3,000 years, was whispering. Listen, learn, adapt. You pity us, she said slowly. No, Lorenzo corrected gently. I empathize with you. There's a difference. Pity is condescending. Empathy is just recognizing that everyone's dealing with their own shit and trying to get by. Over the next 3 days, something unprecedented happened. Lorenzo didn't just help the Kavrathi manage their occupation. He became, inexplicably, their advisor, their friend. The concept was foreign to Vexthara's understanding, but there was no other word for it. He taught them about human psychology, about station culture, about the 1,000 tiny social mechanisms that kept civilization functioning. He introduced them to coffee, which Krikstar developed an immediate and alarming addiction to. He explained human humor, which Zarix found fascinating and completely incomprehensible in equal measure. And slowly, conversation by conversation, coffee break by coffee break, the Kavrathi began to change. It started small. Krikstar stopped automatically calculating kill zones when entering a room. Zarix began using people's names instead of just threat classifications. Vexthara found herself asking questions that had nothing to do with tactical advantage. What's it like, living on a station? What do humans do for recreation? Why do you work third shift when it clearly makes you lonely? Lorenzo answered every question with the same patient, matter-of-fact tone he used for everything else. I work third shift because I like the quiet and I need the money. I live on the station because Earth's expensive and crowded. I do maintenance because I'm good at fixing broken things, and it turns out there's always something broken that needs fixing. Do you not wish for more? Vexthara asked one night. Or was it day? Station time was artificial anyway. They were in the maintenance break room, Lorenzo making another pot of coffee while Vexthara monitored security feeds. More of what? Lorenzo asked. More money? Sure, wouldn't hurt. More purpose? I've got purpose. Keeping this station running keeps people alive. That's not nothing. More connection? Well, he smiled, glancing at the Kavrathi commander. I'm having coffee with an engineered super soldier from an extinct empire while my station's under occupation. My therapist is gonna have a field day with this. So yeah, I guess I've got connection. That's when the peacekeeping force attacked. They came in hard, 3 battlecruisers, 2 destroyer escorts, enough firepower to reduce Terra Station to constitute atoms. Vexthara's tactical display lit up like a festival celebration, as her warriors prepared defensive positions, weapons hot, ready to sell their lives for what exactly? For the first time in 3,000 years, Vexthara questioned her programming. Lorenzo, she said urgently, you need to reach the evacuation pods. This battle will be— Commander Vexthara, Lorenzo interrupted, his voice calm but firm. With all due respect, shut up and listen for 30 seconds. No one had ever told her to shut up before. She shut up. Those ships out there? Lorenzo pointed at the tactical display. They're gonna kill everyone on this station trying to kill you. All 100,000 people you've been keeping alive, all my coworkers, all the families, all the random merchants and travelers, everyone, and they'll call it acceptable losses. He walked over to her, the small, unarmed human standing in front of a 7-foot killing machine. You've got a choice right now. You can fight, probably take out 1 or 2 of those ships before they overwhelm you, maybe survive another few weeks before they hunt you down. Or, Vexthara found herself actually waiting for his answer. Or you surrender. Not to them, to yourself. Stop being what you were programmed to be, and start being what you choose to be. We are warriors, Krikstar growled. We do not surrender. Then, be warriors who fight for something instead of just fighting because that's all you know how to do, Lorenzo shot back. Protect this station, protect these people. Not because they're strategic assets, but because it's the right thing to do. Show the galaxy that the Kavrathi can be something other than nightmare. Vexthara looked at her warriors, 15 of the deadliest soldiers ever created, all watching her, waiting for orders. Then she looked at Lorenzo, this ridiculous human janitor who drank too much coffee and hummed while he mopped and somehow saw them as people instead of monsters. Peacekeeping force vessel, this is Commander Vexthara of the Kavrathi, she said into the comm system. We are standing down. We will negotiate for the safety of all station personnel. No one else dies today. The comm crackled. Repeat, did you say surrender? No, Vexthara said. and something like a smile crossed her face. Her first in 3 millennia. I said we're standing down to protect civilians. There's a difference. Now send someone to negotiate who's actually authorized to make decisions. Because I'm about to propose something that's going to make your command structure very uncomfortable. What followed was 6 weeks of the most bizarre diplomatic negotiations in galactic history. The Kavrathi demanded asylum, protection for their cultural identity, and jobs. Specifically, they wanted to work as station security. The Council of United Species nearly had a collective aneurysm, but Lorenzo testified on their behalf, this random maintenance worker, explaining to the most powerful politicians in the galaxy that the Kavrathi weren't monsters, just soldiers without a war who needed a purpose beyond killing. He brought psychological assessments, rehabilitation plans, and a very detailed proposal for how engineered super soldiers could actually make excellent peacekeepers if given proper training and oversight. The council was skeptical. The military was outraged. Public opinion was mixed. Then Vexthera did something no one expected. She apologized. Publicly, genuinely, without qualification. She acknowledged every life her warriors had taken, every family destroyed, every act of violence committed. She didn't make excuses or claim they were just following orders. We were created to kill, she said, during the final hearing. But we were not created to choose. Now we choose differently. We choose to protect instead of destroy. We choose life instead of death. And we will spend the rest of our existence proving that choice means something. It wasn't enough for everyone. Some species refused to accept it, demanded justice, wanted the Kavrathi executed or imprisoned. But enough voices, including, surprisingly, many humans, spoke in their favor. The compromise was strict, monitored integration, psychological counseling, limited jurisdiction, regular evaluations. The Kavrathi would serve a probationary period under joint oversight, working alongside existing security forces, proving their commitment to their new purpose. They accepted immediately. 6 months later, Terra Station had the safest, most efficient security force in the sector. Crime rates dropped to nearly zero, not because the Kavrathi were violent, but because their very presence discouraged most would-be criminals, and their tactical expertise made them exceptional at conflict de-escalation. Vexthera found herself doing things she'd never imagined, mediating disputes between merchants, helping lost children find their parents, coordinating emergency responses to environmental failures. It was harder than combat in ways she couldn't have predicted, required patience, empathy, creativity, all these soft skills her programming never included. But Lorenzo was there, drinking his terrible coffee, offering advice, reminding her that progress wasn't perfection, just trying. "You did good today," he told her one night after she'd talked down a potentially violent domestic dispute without resorting to force. "That couple's gonna get counseling now instead of someone getting hurt. That's a win." "It feels insignificant compared to our previous operations," Vexthera admitted. "Yeah, but you've saved thousands of lives with those insignificant actions over the last 6 months. That's thousands of people who wake up tomorrow because you chose to protect instead of destroy. Seems pretty significant to me." Vexthera's 4 eyes focused on him, this human who'd seen past her weapons and armor to something she hadn't known existed. "You changed us, Lorenzo Reyes," she said quietly. "One conversation at a time, one cup of coffee at a time. You showed us we could be more than our programming." Lorenzo smiled, that same easy smile he'd given her 6 months ago while holding a mop. "Nah, Commander. I just cleaned up some messes and pointed out what was already there. You guys did the hard part. You chose to change. That's all you." He raised his thermos in a mock toast. "Besides, someone's gotta keep you caffeinated while you're out there being reformed super soldiers. Union rules." Krikstar, who'd been listening from his security station, laughed, an actual laugh, rough and unpracticed but genuine. "Your union has very strange rules, human." "Best union in the galaxy," Lorenzo replied. "We negotiate for reasonable working conditions and adequate coffee supplies. Revolutionary stuff." And there, in the quiet hours of 3rd shift, surrounded by security monitors and coffee cups, and the low hum of station life, the Kavrathi learned what their creators never intended them to know, that the strongest warriors aren't the ones who can kill without hesitation, but the ones who choose mercy, even when violence would be easier. They were engineered to kill. But they met a human janitor who taught them something their programming never included, that choosing who you become is more powerful than accepting who you were designed to be. And sometimes, the most revolutionary act is just mopping a floor, drinking coffee, and treating everyone, even ancient killing machines, with basic human decency. The galaxy would never be quite the same. But then again, neither would the Kavrathi. And honestly, that was exactly the point.